All right, so we'll just introduce ourselves briefly. My name is Joanna Frankel. I serve as the Director of Elementary Culture and Climate for Portland Public Schools. That means I work across all 10 of our elementary schools on what we do and how we feel, which includes a big part of that is around PBIS, and it also encompasses things like attendance and social, emotional, behavioral health for students. And Erin?
Hi, I'm Erin Thompson, and I'm the Culture and Climate Coordinator at Ocean Avenue Elementary School. And basically, my job is the same, but on a lower level as Joanna's. I do a lot of the PBS attendance and the social emotional work with our students there.
Great. So we're going to be focusing on TFI indicator 1.17, which is on the TFI 3.0, which is around using the SWIS drill down process for team decision making. And Erin has some great examples to share with you of work that she's done at Ocean Avenue Elementary School. So I'll turn it over to Erin to tell you about Ocean.
Awesome. So Ocean Avenue Elementary School is a K-5 school in Portland, Maine. Our demographics are listed right there. We have about 319 kids. 62% are white and 38 are BIPOC, are brown Indigenous people of color, or Black Indigenous people of color, I should say. 22% multilingual students, and 20% of our students have IEPs, with 6% of our students being homeless. And we've been implementing PBIS since roughly about 2012. And we're in our second year of the advanced tiers cohort for the main PBIS. And just some additional content for you to understand about Ocean Ave is that we're an international baccalaureate school. And we house 2 of the ASD classrooms within our school. That's the autism spectrum disorder. And we are one of Portland's 10 elementary schools.
So folks might be familiar with this, with the TFI 3.0. I know we're all just getting started with it. This indicator is around decision making with behavioral data. And so it's really asking teams, do you have access to behavioral data? And can you disaggregate it? So that's part of it, is can you drill into your behavior data and look at it by time of day, day of week, location, response to the behavior, by subgroups of students. And then it also asks, do you share that data? So it's not enough to just have the data, but how do you use it, and who do you share it with, and how frequently? And so some of the data sources that you might be looking at as your team is analyzing this are your team's data reports, your meeting minutes and action plans for your PBIS teams, or your other MTSS teams. People call it different things: RTI, MTSS, SST, etc. And so when Ocean was doing their fall TFI using the 3.0, and I was there with them, they rated themselves as a 2 in the fall. And the reason for that being was really around the frequency that they were sharing the data back with staff. And so they have great systems when it comes to like a house for their behavioral data. They use SWIS, which we'll talk about some more, but the real area of growth was around how often we're sharing the behavioral data back with staff. So a 2. Turning it back over to Erin.
Okay. A value that we have at our school that we've worked really hard at Ocean Ave is coming up with more intentional moves in our academics. We've been using a lot of data-based decision-making when we're in our MTSS system for academic needs our students are showing. And one thing that we were noticing is that we need to align those practices that we have of making data-based decisions with our academics, now align that with the behavioral component and making sure that those practices carry over when we're thinking about kids' social emotional needs and their contextually inappropriate behaviors. And how do we make sure that those decisions are just being driven in a really well-intentioned way based on data that is being reported through SWIS? So the power of the SWIS data is in this drill down that we'll share with you. And it's a way that you can kind of uncover bigger things that are happening within your school, whether it's a tier 1 level system or it's something that you need to drill down with an individual group of students. All right, so the work that we did, and we'll show you what this form looks like in a minute, but we used the SWIS drill down worksheet. So we were the PBS team at my school was sharing data roughly monthly with staff, but it wasn't really, it was just giving them the overall snapshot of the SWIS data. And so the intentional move of using this SWIS drill down was that we wanted to really look at these like specific data points to give a precise problem. So on the SWIS data, yeah, will you pop it up for them?
So I'm just going to I'm going to share a different document with you now. So when Erin's referencing this drill down worksheet, this is what she is referencing.
So the cool part about this, and when Joanna was explaining this to our team and then us taking it on and using it as this tool that we could use to make sure our PBS meetings were being really effective and data driven, was to play the game of Clue. And so I grew up liking playing the game of Clue. So when she said that, I was like, yes, I'm in this. So we brought it to the team. And basically what you do is we go into SWIS, we're looking at our data and we're drilling down. And at the top of each one of those drill down filters, you'll see the who, what, where, when, why. And you just take it question by question. Our team did that. And what we came up for our precise problem was that between 11 and 12, which is a recess time for K1, we have 11 students in grades K-1 engaging in minor contact, physical aggression, minor defiance on the playground. And we believe that the primary function was to obtain peer attention. However, we saw that there were a high number of referrals that had unknown listed as the motivator. So not only did this SWIS drill down give us this precise problem that we could then start thinking about how to put parameters in for to how to solve, we also recognize this piece of how people were inputting the data points in SWIS for us. So that was one of our big power moves, was to remind staff to make sure that they take their best guess at what they think the function of the behavior is.
You ready for next slide?
Yeah, and I can tell them about this one on the next slide too.
Great.
So in our PBS meeting, when you're doing this drill down, you come up with your precise problem. At the very bottom of that SWIS drill down worksheet, there's a solution development. And I loved that part too, because not only on the SWIS drill down are you given the steps of like playing the game of Clue to figure out what your precise problem is, then at the bottom, you're going in under thinking about what are prevention measures you can do, what are teaching measures, what's some recognition you can do? Is there extinction that needs to happen or corrective consequences? And when we went through that as a team, we were able to come up with a plan of telling staff to do their best timestamp, doing tree of choices, which is part of our purposeful people, our SEL curriculum, and making sure that all staff had that common language, reminding K1 teachers to review the tree of choices and how it needs to be used. We also then amped up our ticket system of, we call them catch a waves, and for that specific positive praise that we're giving students. And so we made a colored catch a wave ticket of red, and we asked the staff on the K-1 recess, anytime you see any little behavior that has to do with that minor contact or working through the problem, we want you to ticket a ton of tickets to kids to reinforce that really good behavior of asking an adult for help or going through the tree of choices steps to solve that problem. And then I don't think if there's any other. We also just gave a quick recess staff checklist of that what we also needed staff to do. So not only was it about the behavior of the kids that we were trying to impact, but we also knew that we needed to impact the behavior of the adults on the recess duty. So we did a little quick checklist. And I have to say, AI is amazing for this, so can't take full credit here, but typing in part of the problem without giving, too much information away, but enough context in AI, it can generate some of these things for you. And one of the things that it did generate was this quick recess staff checklist. So it says actively circulate and engage with students, use the tree of choices language during conflict, walks students through problem solving steps, reinforce desired behaviors with specific praise, and hand out those tickets early and often. So the impact that we saw was that we saw a decrease in the contextually inappropriate behavior for those same grade levels, the same time, the same location. And anecdotally, we saw that staff was using more of the common language that has to do with our curriculum with purposeful people. And there was one other note I was going to mention. Now I can't find my little post-it note to go with it, but that's okay. And we made those lanyards so that people have the little tree of choices now on their lanyards. Our data was impacted by just events that have happened. So we did understand that correlation to the data that we did look at did have an impact due to things that were happening in Maine during this winter.
So we have the next round of TFIs, probably lots of people do, coming up at the end of April, beginning of May. And so we anticipate now at Ocean that when they go through their self-assessment again, they're going to assess themselves as a 3 on this indicator now, always room for improvement. And with a future action step being, continued consistency with regular data reviews and drill downs. But now that I think they've had this practice with running the drill down and having these interventions in place, and staff have experienced sort of the impact of that, it's great experience for people. So real quick, before we take questions, if you are a school who's just getting started, the first place to start would be to gather behavioral data. And so some schools will have SWIS, the school-wide information system, that checks all the boxes. So that allows you to disaggregate the data. But you don't need SWIS to be able to do that. I know many schools use some kind of like a Google form that feeds into a spreadsheet. And if you're using a tool like that, make sure you ask things like what the time, the day of the week, the location, what you think the function of the behavior was, and then some key demographic information about students so that you can then disaggregate your data. Another piece would be to make sure staff is normed around behavioral definitions, including examples and non-examples. So particularly things like disrespect and defiance can be very subjective. So it's really important that staff are all normed around what respect looks like, and then conversely, what disrespect looks like, so that we can have good data. And then start reviewing that with a team. So that would be if you're just getting started. If you've already got SWIS and you've never used the drill down tool, that's the magic sauce right there.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So, get beyond just those big reports and really start to drill into the data. PBIS has some great little videos you could watch on how to do that. And then whatever you're doing, whatever system you're using, really start to disaggregate the data and get precise about your problem solving based in the data so that you can make good decisions around prevention and intervention, and use the data to its fullest. And it is 2:16. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I know we just threw a whole lot of words and information at people, but really this is a time for us to have a conversation. So we'd love to hear any questions that people have, and we can use the shared expertise in the room.